May 10th, 1992, the day my life changed, the day my life ended, and the day my new life began. I was hit by a train while trying to rescue a girl who had fallen while crossing the tracks and gotten her foot stuck. It dragged me the length of 2 football fields, and in the process, amputated my foot, ran over my elbow on my right side, and pretty much skinned me alive. When the train finally came to a stop, it had dragged me across 2 trestles into a really isolated area, making it very difficult for the rescue workers to find me. So once they actually found me, separated the train, and were able to pull me out from under it, they had to load me on a backboard, carry me across a trestle, down a hill, across the fence, through a field, over a locked gate, to the waiting ambulance. Then they took me to the local hospital and to meet the med flight helicopter, which would take me to the closest level 1 trauma center in the next state. The helicopter arrived, they loaded me, and partway to the new hospital, to the trauma center, I coded. They struggled, they worked with me, they tried to revive me, and they weren't able to. And while struggling to revive me, they realized that they were flying over a hospital midway between the hospital they picked me up at and the trauma center. So they radioed to that hospital, gave them the situation. That hospital told them to land. They landed, rushed me into the emergency room. The doctors and nurses there were finally able to revive me, take me back to the helicopter, and then continue on to the level 1 trauma center. Now, the really cool part I like to tell everyone about this whole story is that hospital that they revived me in, that I came back into this world in, is the same hospital I was originally born in. So I like to tell people I came into this world twice in the same hospital. Once they got me to the trauma center, my mother had beat them there by car because they had to land and revive me. And they thought my chances were so slim of making it that they actually stopped on the way to emergency surgery to let my mom kiss me goodbye. But she did not, staying true to form to my mom. She bent close to my mangled face, she kissed my cheek, and she told me that she loved me and that she would be there for me when I woke up. And true to her word, she was standing by my bedside 4 days later when I did. One thing that I pride myself on, I like to tell people is one of my proudest moments, is when I woke up in the hospital 4 days after the accident. By the way, I should rewind and say I was fully conscious through the entire ordeal up until I coded, and then when they revived me, fully conscious again until they put me under for emergency surgery. So when I woke up 4 days later to a nurse calling my voice, I wasn't really happy. so I kind of grumbled at her, and when she was calling my name, she kept saying, Mark, and I finally woke up and said, what? And so she kind of laughed, and she asked me if I knew where I was. I thought for a moment, and I didn't. I said no. She asked me if I remembered what happened. I thought for a moment. Wheels kind of started turning, but I said no, I don't. And she said, you've been involved with an accident with a train. I'll be right back. I'm going to get your doctor. I couldn't see anything at the moment, but I felt that she left the room. I could kind of sense that she had. So I knew I was alone. I was laying there trying to remember what happened. The wheels started turning, the memory started coming back, bits and pieces flooded back in, and I thought, I know what my doctor's going to ask me. I know the first thing he's going to say to me when he comes back in here, and I'm never going to have this chance again. I'm going to make this a moment to remember. Sure enough, a couple minutes later, there's movement, there's people around me. I could hear people talking and moving around. My doctor, Mark, yes. I'm Dr. Brassfield, I believe was his name. Do you remember what happened? No, sorry. He said, how do you feel? I knew this was my moment, so I groaned really loud, so over dramatically, sighed, groaned really loud, lifted my left arm, which was the only thing free at the time, dragged it slowly and dramatically across my head, dodging all the staples and surgical incisions, get to the back, and I said, Doc, I feel like I've been hit by a train. Total silence. And then for a few seconds, dead silence, and then I heard someone snicker in the background. Turns out it was one of the interns I made laugh. Then a couple minutes later, the doctor started laughing, and I smiled, and I said, okay, so tell me, how bad is it? There's my guard dog. And that began my life as Marky5Toes. I thought it was a pretty good start and a pretty good reflection of how it would go, because I've always tried to lace my life with humor and And I've always tried to enjoy it. I've always tried to find something to be happy about, something to enjoy. Over the years, I always tried to be a very active person. I tried to get back to the person that I was. I was a cross-country runner and I guess a self-proclaimed athlete. At first it was difficult because of the severity of my injuries. It wasn't just losing a leg. I also, I was just devastated physically. So it was months before I could even stand up again. It was months before I could even sit up by myself. Weeks after that before I could stand up by myself. Weeks after that before I could actually take a step by myself. So at first it was slow going. It was frustrating. Not because I felt sorry for myself or not because I felt bad, just because I wanted to just snap my fingers and be that person again. I knew I could get there. It was just a matter of putting in the hard work and the effort to do it. I'd been an amputee for close to 25 years. I'd tried to remain active. I'd tried to be the person that I was before, the person I wanted to be, but I just simply kept breaking the feet. I couldn't find components, equipment to hold up, to keep up with me. Now, my prosthetist knew that I was an active amputee, and he had a friend who needed active amputees to be part of a gait study, part of a study comparing and contrasting different prosthetic feet. So he put me on one of the top-of-the-line carbon feet. I was on it for about 5 weeks. It was better than what I had. I wasn't overly impressed because I still had that definitely walking on a prosthetic feel to it, a prosthetic foot feel to it. And he called me back into his office, said, okay, it's time for this next one. It's called the rush foot. I'd heard the word one time. He puts it on me. I stand up. I kind of bounce back and forth with my toes a little bit. It felt weird. I got a really confused look on my face, and he asked me, what is it? That's why I don't know. I said, it feels weird. My brain can't process the signals it's receiving. I kind of bounced back and forth a little bit, and he's like, well, just, take a moment, get your balance, make sure everything's okay. He walked me to the door. I got a huge smile spread across my face, and he kind of laughed and said, well, what is it? I said, I figured it out. He said, what? And I said, it feels real. And I didn't push him, but I kind of moved him back with my hands, turned and ran out the door. I ran around the parking garage, all the way around the biomechanics building, back to where he was standing. I'm bent over, sweat dripping off my forehead, stitch in my side, gasping for breath. And he's like, are you okay? And I said, I haven't been able to do that for 25 years. I was so happy. And from that day on the rush, I took off, I became a runner again, and I became the person I always wanted to be, the person I was before. So, remember to follow us monthly on all the RushFit channels and be part of the fun and adventure that is our life, as he tries to keep up with me for a change. The adventures of Marky5Toes and a sidekick Nacho.